Pete Buttigieg career. Early career in military service. Before graduating from college, Buttigieg worked as an investigative intern at MAC TV, Chicago's NBC News affiliate. He also interned for Jill Long Thompson's unsuccessful 2002 congressional campaign. He later advised her unsuccessful gubernatorial campaign. From 2004 to 2005, Buttigieg worked in Washington, D.C., as conference director for former Secretary of Defense William Cohen's strategic consulting firm, the Cohen Group. He also spent several months working on Senator John Kerry's 2004 presidential campaign, where he specialized in policy. After earning his Oxford degree, he became a consultant at McKinsey & Company. In 2007, while volunteering for Barack Obama's presidential campaign, Buttigieg was influenced to join the military after seeing the disparities between communities that were missing large amounts of young people due to military service and those that had barely any serving. In 2009, Buttigieg became an ensign in the Navy Reserve and trained to become a naval intelligence officer. He deployed to Afghanistan for 7 months in 2014. While deployed, Buttigieg was part of a unit assigned to identify and disrupt terrorist finance networks. Part of this was done at Bagram Air Base, but he also worked as an armed driver for his commander on over 100 trips into Kabul. Buttigieg has jokingly called this role military Uber, because he had to watch out for ambushes and explosive devices along the roads and make sure the vehicle was guarded. In order to better communicate with Afghans, he also taught himself to speak some Dari, a variation of the Persian language. Buttigieg left the service in 2017. Buttigieg was the Democratic nominee for State Treasurer of Indiana in 2010. He received 37.5% of the vote, losing to Republican incumbent Richard Murdoch. Mayor of South Bend. First term. Buttigieg was elected mayor of South Bend in the November 2011 election, with 74% of the vote. He took office in January 2012 at age 29, becoming the second youngest mayor in South Bend history. Schuyler Colfax III became mayor at age 28 in 1898, and the youngest mayor of a U.S. city with at least 100,000 residents. In 2012, Buttigieg demoted South Bend Police Chief Darrell Boykins after a federal investigation found that the police department had improperly recorded telephone calls. He also fired the police department's communications director, who had discovered the recordings but continued to record the line at Boykins' command. The police communications director alleged that the recordings captured 4 senior police officers making racist remarks and discussing illegal acts. Buttigieg has written that his initial decision to reappoint Boykins, the city's first ever African-American police chief, was his first serious mistake as mayor. Boykins sued the city for racial discrimination over being demoted by the mayor, arguing that the taping policy existed under previous police chiefs, who were white. Buttigieg opted to settle the suits brought by Boykins, the communications director, and the 4 officers out of court, resulting in the city spending over $800,000 on out-of-court settlements. In 2015, a federal judge ruled that Boykins's recordings violated the Federal Wiretap Act. Buttigieg came under pressure from political opponents to release the tapes, but said that doing so would be a violation of the Wiretap Act. He called for the eradication of racial bias in the police force. An Indiana court is hearing a case for release of the tapes. Buttigieg was named Mayor of the Year for 2013 by GovFresh.com, tying with third-term New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg. In 2014, The Washington Post called Buttigieg the most interesting mayor you'd never heard of based on his youth, education, and military background. In 2016, New York Times columnist Frank Bruni published a column praising his work as mayor with a headline asking if he might be the first gay president. One of Buttigieg's signature programs has been the Vacant and Abandoned Properties Initiative, known locally as 1,000 Properties in 1,000 Days, a project to repair or demolish blighted properties across South Bend. The goal was reached by the program's scheduled end date in November 2015. Buttigieg served for 7 months in Afghanistan as a lieutenant in the Navy Reserve, returning to the United States on September 23, 2014. While deployed, he was assigned to the Afghan Threat Finance Cell, a counterterrorism unit that targeted Taliban insurgency financing. In his absence, Deputy Mayor Mark Neal, South Bend City Comptroller, served as executive from February 2014 until Buttigieg returned to his role as mayor in October 2014. Second term. In 2014, Buttigieg announced that he would seek a second term. He won the Democratic primary with 78% of the vote, defeating Henry Davis Jr., the city councilman from the 2nd District. In November 2015 he was elected to his second term as mayor with over 80% of the vote, defeating Republican Kelly Jones. In 2015, during the controversy over Indiana Senate Bill 101, the original version of which was widely criticized for allowing discrimination against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, Buttigieg emerged as a leading opponent of the legislation, and shortly thereafter came out as gay to express his solidarity. In 2013 Buttigieg proposed a Smart Streets urban development program to improve South Bend's downtown area, and in early 2015, after traffic studies and public hearings, he secured a bond issue for the program backed by tax increment financing. Smart Streets was aimed at improving economic development and urban vibrancy as well as road safety. The project involved the conversion of one-way streets in downtown to two-way streets, traffic calming measures, the widening of sidewalks, street-side beautification, including the planting of trees and installation of decorative brickwork, the addition of bike lanes, and the introduction of roundabouts. Elements of the project were finished in 2016, and it was officially completed in 2017. The project was credited with spurring private development in the city. As mayor, Buttigieg was a leading figure behind the creation of a nightly laser lighting display along downtown South Bend's St. Joseph River Trail as public art. The project cost $700,000, which was raised from private funds. The River Lights installation was unveiled in May 2015, as part of the city's 150th anniversary celebrations. Under Buttigieg, South Bend launched a $50 million investment in the city's parks, many of which had been neglected during the preceding decades. In December 2018, Buttigieg announced that he would not seek a third term as mayor of South Bend. After a white South Bend police officer shot and killed an African-American man in June 2019, Buttigieg was drawn from his presidential campaign to focus on the emerging public reaction. On June 23 he presided over a town hall attended by disaffected activists from the African-American community as well as relatives of the slain man. The local police union accused Buttigieg of making decisions for political gain. 2017 DNC Chair election. In January 2017 Buttigieg announced his candidacy for chair of the Democratic National Committee in its 2017 chairmanship election. He built a national profile as an emerging dark horse in the race for the chairmanship with the backing of former DNC Chairman Howard Dean and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Buttigieg campaigned on the idea that the aging Democratic Party needed to empower its millennial members. He withdrew from the race on the day of the election. 2020 presidential election. On January 23, 2019, Buttigieg announced that he was creating an exploratory committee for a candidacy for President of the United States in the 2020 election. Buttigieg is seeking the Democratic nomination. If elected, he would be the youngest and the first openly gay American president. He officially launched his campaign on April 14, 2019, in South Bend. Buttigieg describes himself as a progressive and a supporter of democratic capitalism. He favors universal health care with retention of private insurance, dialogue and cooperation between the Democratic Party and organized labor, universal background checks for firearms purchases, and environmentalist policies to combat pollution and climate change, which Buttigieg views as a national security threat. He supports subsidizing solar panels and the Paris Agreement. After President Trump withdrew the United States from the Paris Agreement, Buttigieg was one of many U.S. mayors to sign the Mayor's National Climate Action Agenda, pledging that his city would continue to adhere to the agreement. Buttigieg supports the Equality Act, a bill extending federal non-discrimination protection to LGBT people. He opposes the Trump administration's ban on transgender personnel. Buttigieg supports the DACA program in federal legislation that would create a pathway to citizenship for youths brought to the country illegally as children. He supports abortion rights. Buttigieg identifies companies lobbying government for favorable business legislation as a significant problem in American society.